I do have the long ones if you. Oh, hey, are you gonna present from your machine or from this one, do you think?
Either one.
And do you want split screen so you can look at notes, or do you?
Yeah.
Okay, because we can do that on either, but you'd have to share it with the presentation at malawiprep.org account, so we can pull it straight out for you logged in. Unless you want to plug in, we've had both.
Is everyone the A question or something?
No, today is the AP Lang exam. So next Wednesday is the AP exam. Yeah, that's why there's like no one, because there's more people in AP Lang than regular English.
Mm-hmm. So one person, Mads, Quill, Emerson, Becker, and Lana.
Today in A-Push, I don't have to go to A-Push today. We don't have A-Push. Because I'm the only person in A-Push that doesn't take AP Lang.
Wow.
Every single other person in A-Push takes AP Lang.
Mm-hmm.
Are you first or is Lucy, do you know?
Lucy, yes.
Okay.
I'm kind of gross.
Oh, that can't be. Sorry.
Oh, my God. It's good. I hope that-
Wait, no, not put this shit in my hand.
Language, QS.
No, please, please, please.
Which language, Quill and Schlesinger?
Sorry, Mr. Lloyd.
I just did it.
What am I showing it to?
Is this-
Oh,
I'm here.
presentation at malawiprep.org, you'll see it pop up where she
Okay.
started.
You got 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Aiden, I think you chose a day when there's only gonna be about 5 people here because everyone's in AP. Yeah, literally, I got pretty lucky, yeah.
Who else is presenting today?
Aiden as well as Lucy. Oh, I see Lucy's as well. She has it as a PDF. Huh. Oh, there's yours. So Aiden, when you start, obviously you'll use the drop down and choose presenter view, and that will pop out your speaker notes. You'll have to drag the presentation over to the other screen. So if we do that,
Yeah,
presenter view, you can see this is hovering, waiting for you to look at.
Aiden.
Just drag this over. And then go to full screen. You can do F11. Why is it not doing it? I do F11s. Why am I getting full screen? Should be getting full screen instead of just the this guy. But you've got this on one screen, and then you can go forward. Hey, I'm still not getting full screen, even with F11. I did F11.
Function F11.
Huh? I did function F11. Oh, maybe I missed and hit F10. What did you do differently?
Nothing. I just clicked on the top of the.
Did I just miss it?
You might have not been
Yeah,
clicked
that's-
up here. You gotta like make
Oh,
sure your
yeah,
cursor not on there, but like click so it knows that it's there.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you can maximize it like that, or you can just do.
Okay, that's weird. All right.
Good morning. What Xbox are you missing out on so much?
Anyway, so I'm going
So you're not
I'm pretty sure there's gonna be things. No one here.
Right. Well, like the crowd around the like.
So you'll it's a couple of steps, but then it'll be like a roll. I do see some email.
Lucy is
Is it just
Oh, hey, are you just a PDF?
Yes, there's a PDF.
Oh, that's an additional.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. And then do you also have? All right. Do you want to present on this machine yet? And do you have speaker notes as well? Do you want flip?
Go
Okay.
check with Mr. Panda, I can see if it's all loaded up, good to go.
Yeah, I saw the email with the is that the presentation?
Alright, you guys gotta help me out with who's in, is it AP Lang?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pro.
there's so
Can I
many.
go with that?
Yes. Yeah.
You said,
Yes.
that's
No.
Here, I'm not the first, right?
Aiden's here, Cam.
Aiden!
Do you also have a slideshow?
Yes.
I don't see it. I see the results. You may need to share the.
Yeah, maybe like.
Send share the slideshow.
Emerson's here, Anna.
Here. I'm not ready.
Oh, no, disagree.
John.
Isn't Caleb going to?
I'm gonna rotate roll. So, we're still right now.
Okay.
I beg you, I'll give you, I'll buy you tacos.
We're gonna
Mock
give
Maui
you
tacos.
Yeah.
Please.
Well, you're not rushing your time today.
No, Yuna, Lang, Lacey, Mia Lang, Margot Lang.
I can't go first. You're going to.
Lucy,
Hi.
Rihanna,
Like,
Josie.
like.
I guess so.
You're like once in a Yeah, it's small. She said that to me last year, but.
Yeah.
Hey, what are you doing?
Wait, if we don't
That's
have, if.
Did you sign it already? We're just. It's 2016. Yeah.
Is this one?
How was your walk? Yeah, walk. Daniel's here. When you walk in the last cat right there. I was asking. That's why you're going to the room. It's actually I know, that's what I'm joking about.
There's 1, 2.
I think it's like a higher net worth than me. You ready to present on this? You're one your car. Are you gonna go to our site? You can hear anything.
Yeah, it might be.
No, all my friends are all actually. Oh.
I know that are nice.
Oh, that's John James.
They were looking before, look back, look back. They made the frequency of real things and we already conversations that were not in all of them and everything.
Yeah, so John James said that you weren't gonna have to present your swimming project, but then Keenan said that you were gonna.
Yeah.
You guys said that.
Okay.
Ideally, you can be in two places at the same
And I
time.
have one.
Is that possible for you?
I can have a laptop in one hand.
Yes.
I can try.
Wait, we're presenting our city project?
On the arts night.
Why do we have two?
That's not, Mr. Reader will absolutely.
Wait, presented like, oh yeah, just like have our computer.
Yeah, whoever comes by.
Oh.
Yeah, you're gonna stand there and have your computer out. Uh-oh. All right, Lucy,
It's a prison.
you want Aiden to go first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Future of Programmers is yours, Aiden? Okay.
You got it.
All right, we're gonna wait for just a couple minutes. John James is giving a motivational speech to the AP Lion kids down there. And we
I
only
go make my
have two
macaroni.
Where's my phone?
Last go over there, maybe.
I eat macaroni every day at school. It's like the one of the money stuff. That's okay.
You not read it? Go get that!
And so.
Andy, go!
I dropped my key.
No, I'm not ready.
Okay, Aiden,
Yeah.
do you want speaker notes or what do you want? Screen share?
And then there's the other.
Okay.
Which hand? That's not hand.
So it's pretty good.
Okay.
Just change the one.
The right hand.
Already up.
Yeah,
No.
No, but we can make.
yeah. Right hand has it.
You. Yeah. Press F and I don't know. I gotta make it full screen.
What you got?
Yeah, I saw it going down now.
What you got?
It is like the day.
Okay, 47?
What?
Would you go?
Let me see.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So I got a,
What's that?
I got a 96% on my project. I'm passing out.
You mean on your
Yeah.
delivery style.
They both did it.
Okay, very much.
So, perfect score.
Mama.
Did you watch your video?
Just go, no, just look at how it is.
Oh, function envelope.
You say my delivery was perfect.
All right, good morning, everyone. We have
Great.
Aiden here. Good? All right.
We're great in my morning.
So I chose to do my senior project on the future of programmers. So I tried the question, what role will computer programmers have in the new era of technology, so like AI and stuff. And for my junior project last year, I decided to focus on my other passion, which is fishing. So I did like how the reefs here are being overfished really badly. But that's not something I really want to do in college, so I kind of just switched to the complete opposite side and did computer programming. And so the first thing we'll talk about is artificial intelligence, and it kind of seems scary. It's like, I mean, they can do basically whatever. It seems like they can just make a website and better than a human can, but it's not really that simple. So, I mean, ChatGPT, I think we all know it. These dumb introductions of basically Google on crack, it writes your essays for you, does whatever. But what you may have not known is that it can actually write code. But it's not perfect. It often will put out wrong code, which I find pretty interesting. And from what it can do, it can only write very simple lines of code. So like a random number generator like that, or basically to move an image, basically. So you can't produce like a game or like a website. And all it does is just copy what's already on the internet, basically. And it does that for everything else. It does not only coding. And for programming, you can't do that. You're not copying it. You have to create new stuff. So that's kind of why ChatGPT and AI in particular aren't scary. And the Turing test, the purpose of it is to determine a machine's ability to exhibit intelligent behavior that is indistinguishable from a human. So basically, a human will talk to an AI and another human, and if it can't determine which one is which consistently, it will pass the Turing test. And then a recent example of this is the one Google did in 2022, which did pass. They called it a barbershop with the AI, and although the barber didn't know that it was an AI, there was kind of some slight problems with it because it didn't know that it was supposed to be, it was in a test, so it didn't know to look for the AI. And even if it did suspect it, they can't really say anything because they don't want to be rude. And like, it's not that the AI is thinking, there's just a bunch of responses programmed into it already. So it's basically just doing the same thing as ChatGPT, even if it sounds kind of different. And then, so I'm going to kind of talk about the coding base, which I kind of learned throughout my time on this project. The 3 types I'm going to talk about: HTML, which is basic website structure. There's the head and the body, and then it contains like text and images mostly. And then Java, which is dynamic elements, so it's like anything changing. So if you're gonna like move an image and stuff like that. And then CSS, which is the styling, so all like colors, fonts, and then spacing. So you can have like spacing and margins and stuff. So HTML, it's just basic website structure. There's the head and the body. In the head, you're gonna have your website title. So not the title on the website, it's gonna be like the title on the tab, the words on the tab. And then you could also put your link to your script and CSS and like that stuff in there. And the body, pretty text, images, videos. And then if you're going to put your script inside the HTML, you can, it's most often put in the body. And then as long as with the CSS as well. And then Java, so yeah, the dynamic, anything that changes. So this example is just a random number generator. So you have the header 1 and header 2, which is that, and then that's the script. So that, and if you wanted to change it to basically any number, you could just change like the 10 to 100 and then keep it at 1. That would be anything from 1 to 100. That's like the most simple Java line that you can get, pretty much. And CSS is my favorite. I mean, it's definitely not because it's the easiest to use, but yeah, it just changes size, color, font. So in this example, you have to put in the style tags as long as the same as the script tags because it'll get confused with everything else. But I just changed the background color to light blue, and that's just a random website I found without the use of CSS. And so yeah, I mean, you can see it's pretty ugly. It doesn't look very good. And then that's just changing the header 1 to italics and changing the header 2 to have a background of a darker green. So you can just kind of do stuff like that. So it's pretty easy. And then if you want to link your documents to make it much simpler, so you could have your CSS or script in a separate document and then put the link to it inside of it's what's going to put inside of the head. So you can see right there, it's just the link rel style sheet, and it just says what type of document it is. And then you give the name of the document, and then that's what's in the document. And so you can do that with the script as well, which is really useful for if you're like trying to find stuff. It makes it a lot easier. And jQuery, it's basically just a database of Java codes that they rewrite to make it much simpler. So instead of, I couldn't get the jQuery code for a random number generator because that's the simplest. They don't have it because it's just too simple. So basically, like to hide the paragraph, I didn't write this code. I just copied this off the internet. But to hide the paragraph with the button, you just have that, which would be a lot of lines with regular Java. So it helps a lot, basically. And then for my product, for my internship, I decided to make a custom Pac-Man game. And I worked with Dean Abrams, he's a programmer at VentureBeats, like a VR gaming company. He's a family friend. And he's not here. Last time I checked, he was in Florida. And he's all around. And I am really thankful to him. I learned so much from him, and I certainly would not have been able to make what I did without him. He provided so much help. So the first step of that is just drawing the map. Yeah, pretty simple. Just drawing the map I just used. And then the Pac-Man movements, so I didn't even draw it first, I just made the movements. So and this isn't what controls it, this just allows it to move. So yeah, up, right, down, left, pretty simple. And then drawing Pac-Man, and then, so one thing I don't really have in here is every line that it can't go into is a 1, and then every place that it can go is a 0. So that was again one of the more simple things. And then this is where it got slightly confusing. I had a lot of help from Metro that he helped so much. And so it's basically just controlling it so with the arrow keys, and then the change direction if possible. So that means if it's different from this, so you can't face up into the wall. Just a minor detail of it. And then next is drawing the food and making them eat them. I know it says right up there that's from the newer, more customized version of it. It should say white, and then making them eat them was the next step after that. And then I did the score. Pretty simple. That was probably the easiest part. I mean, it's just you just draw it, set the font, change the color, and then set it to change when he eats the food. Basically, pretty easy. And the lives was also really easy. And one thing you don't actually, I forgot to mention, but you don't actually draw this stuff in the code. You use an image that's inside the code, basically. I don't really know how to explain it better. And the ghosts were extremely hard. They were definitely the most difficult thing to do. I spent a lot of time on them. So the first picture is just drawing the ghost, which I mean, it's just a separate image of the ghost that's used in that code. And then the second picture is basically the ghost variables. So like the ghost count, which is 15. For whatever reason, it doubles the ghost count. I'm not sure why. I never thought it was too much of a problem, so I didn't care to fix it. And then the ghost image locations. So that's basically where on the map they start, which I mean, we all play Pac-Man, we all know they start in there. The third image, it shows the range of the ghost. So if they're out of the range, it won't target you. If they are in it, it'll basically just start going at you really fast. And then that's for when they're in range, that's when they target you. And then when they're not in range, they just kind of randomly go around. That's the second part of the code right there. And then the move process is for moving both in range and when it's out of range. This is kind of what it looks like right now after changing some stuff. It's not perfect, but you can get stuck on the map on some places. And then on the side exits, where usually if you go out there, it'll like transfer you back there. It doesn't work because I was trying to make it like to where you could go out one of those and it'll transport you like to a random place on the map, but that's kind of hard. And I hadn't been talking to my mentor, so he couldn't really help me with that. So maybe if I find the time, I'll get to doing that. And there's no game over screen yet. One of the ghosts will basically always get stuck in the box, which is just a pretty common thing with Pac-Man in general. I think most of the games have that. And yeah, that's kind of the problems with it. And then my future plans, I plan to study computer science at NAU. Thank you.
Are you doing your computer or this computer?
That computer.
Who's on Thursday? Diego?
So Jeff, where's your
Operation.
give your. Senior passion project.
What's that?
Okay, do you want presenter view or what do you want? Okay, and then this one, I'm gonna drag over, it'll be behind. Whoa, whoa, what happened? It'll be behind you.
You go.
Already.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Are you ready?
So that's gonna be behind, Lucy.
Yeah.
Shoot this.
Well, not that Google Doc.
Okay.
Oh, you made it into a doc.
Good,
Yeah.
okay, and you wanna be able to see. That, good.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, Lucy Talfa, everybody.
Hi, I'm Luciana, and I did my senior passion project on the Air Force. To dive into like my junior passion project, I did it about the business industry and the general aspect of management, and it has no connection to my senior project, which you might be questioning why. But there are two different topics. So the reason why I chose the U.S. Air Force is basically because of my parents. No offense to them, I do love them. But I had a whole plan out where I was gonna continue on with like the business industry, and then everything changed last summer when my parents kept nagging me about the military. So near the end of the summer, I decided to dig into the military aspect just because, well, I was kind of getting tired of my parents nagging me about it. And I'm actually really glad that they did, because I went into watching so many documentaries and then reading articles, and I'm gonna pass out. So these are books. So those two books were gifted to me by two of my aunt and uncle, just because like they were trying to also help me like get a fresh start in like my research. And I found it really cool, and I was really hooked basically by the documentaries and the articles at the same time during that summer. And obviously, like most of the websites you see are going to try to recruit you. So I had to do a little bit more digging on like YouTube videos that are released by actual active members, where they showed like footage of their daily life during service, and the majority was like really cool for me, and then it just led me to like kind of question like what happens to them after service, because the majority of my research was during their service and what they do. So that led to my driving question: where are there flaws that members face in their transition into a civilian lifestyle after service, and what is being done to resolve it? Because I found that there were a lot of issues. So as I started my research, I came up with three main topics. So obtaining a civilian job right after military service is an issue for many members, and I will go into like the difficulties, why it's difficult, and also what the military specifically is doing to assist members. Secondly is physical well-being. As you might already know, there's so many expectations that members have for like physical fitness and all their other such things. I'll go into like the difficulties, why there's difficulties after service, and what's being done to help ease their transition. Third will be mental health. There are issues universally, but I wanted to dig into like why in the during the military and after the military, why there's issues and what is being done. Another subtopic I wanted to add in there is moral injury, which I will dig into after. I wanted to add that mainly because it's hardly talked about during my research, so yeah. I'll go into my internship after that, and then my product, and then my speech and plan. Okay, so obtaining a civilian job, it's very hard for military members to actually find comfort in being in a civilian workforce after coming out of a very strict environment. And the three factors are work hours, very different. Expectations and work ethic are very different in both environments. And then transition-wise. So work hours, obviously, in a civilian job, you work 8 to 4, 9 to 5. It's just, there's not much expectations in that environment. Whereas in the military, depending on like what job you have, because everyone has their own extreme like positions, many are expected to basically wake up early in the morning to do extra training to basically wake themselves up to prepare them for their job in the military. And their work ethics, basically they're expected to do like very extreme jobs, and they're consistently on their toes, meaning they're like always doing something and they always have to get things done with a certain amount of time. Whereas in the civilian jobs, I wouldn't necessarily say like joke around or such, but your expectations as a civilian, it's not as set high as military specialists, since their jobs are very much different because they're extreme. Transition-wise, it's the normalization of their routine. Military, you're constantly on your toes. Civilian jobs, depending on what job you have, you're not necessarily like always on your toes, depending. So seeing that it's also an issue, there was a study that was made by Pew researchers. They concluded that the reason why that retired service members have an issue obtaining a civilian job after service is because many of them dislike the way civilian jobs technically just generally are. Seeing that they're like their body is already so used to being like up early in the morning, doing so many things right after another. But the military helps by, the military does help by assisting this issue. They have a military on source program where basically service members can go to them and ask them for jobs, like civilian jobs that kind of suit their interest and their current job in the military, just to help them kind of ease their transition into the civilian job. An example would be like an airman in the security forces. They could go to military on source and tell them that, oh, my current or past job in the Air Force was security forces. I do want to continue my my work experience outside after service, and the military on source can provide a list of jobs. For the security forces, they could give them a referral to the police department to help them get that job, since they already do have experience in the security forces, which is basically Air Force, police, etc. Next is physical well-being. So as you might already, when you hear military, what do you think of?
Scary.
Okay, but like, what do you think about like the physical standards?
Running, lots of running.
Okay, so that is all true. So yeah, those are. Sorry, I just lost my track of my head. So the physical well-being, yes, your expectations are to run a lot, to be buff, but not necessarily buff, but like very fit, very able to like take down obstacles, and you're expected to do a lot of extreme jobs and a lot of extreme physical activities, like squeezing into tight, small places. What's other examples? Other examples would be crawling through sewer. A lot of very extreme physical standards. And the transition from the issues are basically their body is used to doing so many extreme activities that when they transition out, yeah, aging is also a thing, but when they're transitioning out, your body is still kind of used to being on your toes, so then you're just like, yeah. And transitioning out, there was a study by Pew researchers again, that the issue is that when they're transitioning out, the members face a lot of like physical, I don't remember what it's called, but they face a lot of physical challenges where their body wants to do a lot of things because they're so used to it in the military. But when they're transitioning into the civilian lifestyle after service, their body kind of slows down, but in a way where their body kind of stiffens and then loosens at some points, which is not necessarily healthy, because a lot of their health, their physical health are just like declining due to like how rapid differences basically. The the military helps with the military on source actually is like a wide variety of like programs that'll help like mental and like obtaining jobs, etc. But they also provide programs for military members to have like physical, basically stay active in a way where they're not stressing their body. So yeah. Mental health. So in the military, you're like put through so many traumatic experiences, and it's like all the things that you basically see first person. You go through like trauma, death, violence, threats to personal safety, and ethical dilemmas throughout your whole service. Every individual practically does. And yes, mental issues are universal. However, in the military, it's very, very typical. So the effects of their exposures are PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, in case you don't know what that is, depression, and traumatic brain injury. This all leads to a rise of depression and suicide for members. And then as you can see down here, 22% of veterans after service, they suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. And then right next to it, you can see 1 out of 3 of these people seek help. So the military does provide so many programs, such as Humana Military, where they provide healthcare as well as other programs to help the mental. Sorry, I just help members, as well as the military on source. They also provide programs too. But seeing this specific part here, as I was doing more research, the multiple sources had said that the military provides a wide variety of resources. However, the reason why there's like a rise to like mental health issues after is because these members refuse to seek the help they need, which is kind of sad at the same time. And I kind of wondered why the Air Force or like the military in general isn't doing much about it, but they are doing. But they can only do so much because there's many enlistments and many active duty members that they can't really necessarily keep nagging one person that doesn't want to get help, if you understand. This all leads to moral injury. So as most of you might not know, the moral injury, the definition is the distressing psychological, behavioral, social, and sometimes spiritual aftermath of exposure to such events. So in the military, you might know that you're exposed to many different people with many different opinions, many different cultural backgrounds. So one can mostly say that their opinions and their moral like standards are somewhat low. Well, their personal morals are somewhat not declining, but changes because of their exposure to different opinions and to different people's like beliefs. It's kind of, and it is an issue in the military because, well, you're also in a strict environment, so technically you can't really do much, especially since you're not necessarily being controlled, but you're expected to do multiple things, and then it also leads to you being stuck in an environment where you have to listen to many different people and their opinions, and then eventually you lose your own moral standards and you're just, yeah. The military does help with like the military on source since they have a wide variety of programs. They also help with helping people basically find their moral standards after the military service. So yeah. So I did my internship at the Hawaii Air National Guard. As you can see, I got the shirt too. Ha, I love them. So I interned Master Sergeant Kawachi. She basically, I forgot about that, definitely. I basically shadowed her and it was really fun. She was really busy. She's a very busy person. But I'm glad that I interned her. So basically during my internship, I was able to do so much. So she taught me that the Air National Guard, they're basically a different branch from the Air Force. And there's apparently like 3. So there's active, reserve, and then the Air National Guard is their own separate branch. So the Air National Guard, they have 2 different call to order. So they call to the governor, and then they also call to the president. So they serve both. And then, so yeah, these are just pictures that I took during my internship. That's Master Sergeant Kawachi, and then, oh my God, I forgot this photo. Okay, never mind. So I was able to meet a lot of different people, and I also, the days that I was there, basically, Dr. Kawachi had me intern during the time where they were having training. So in the military, technically every month you have a PT. So it's a physical test that you have to go through. So many people came from Kauai and Oahu. They came in through the plane and they also left the plane, obviously. But they came in to do their PT testing where they did like running, push-ups, a bunch of very, high stuff. I could not. Yeah. I also shadowed them, so they're actually doing a project right now up by the airport. So this is like the photo where I went with them. They were planning out like their base project test where they're doing like a satellite. They're gonna be setting up a satellite dish while testing the trainees, and setting up a satellite dish as well as like, oh my gosh, I lost all my words. Yeah, and then that's me in a gas uniform thing. Yeah. So for my product, I decided that I wanted to do like to take a survey on my interest navigator. So how do I just
Just press escape. There you go. No, just click on that. Yes.
Oh, I wonder if I can touch it.
No, it's touching doesn't work.
There you go. Click on that.
Right there, yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's cool. Okay, so I did my survey, and the survey consisted of like my interests and a bunch of questions that weren't really necessarily connected to like the jobs, which was very interesting because I expect like, oh, what jobs am I interested in? Instead, it was more of like my interest in like physical activities, etc. And these were my results. So my number one was special warfare and force response. This one is my top one because, well, top result obviously, but it's also like, sorry. So this was my top one, and my basic job, if I were to like take this route, would be to like be in like be in direct emergency response. Sorry, I can't talk. I do not know that. Direct emergency response, interact with people and customers, maintain documents, maintain security. I found this to be interesting because this is actually when I was submitting my application to the Air Force. I actually chose this as my first one before I even took this test, which I think it suits it. Second in line would be my pararescue, which is hazardous, mental, outdoor, physical, unpredictable, and I would work with teams. Third would be survival, evasion, resistance, and escape. As most of you can see, all three jobs are very physical and very outdoorsy, as well as more hands-on, where I could be like behind a computer doing other technical stuff. So yeah, that's kind of my problem. How do I escape?
You want to go back to the other thing?
Yeah.
Just X out of that.
Okay. I see. Okay. Yeah. And then my future plans, I submitted my application to the U.S. Air Force. I actually submitted it during summer because I was very hooked at the time. But I'm going to be enlisting into the U.S. Air Force, and when I enlist, I also plan to continue my education in the Air Force and earn my bachelor's as well in there. And currently, my next step is next week I'm meeting with my recruiter so I could take my test and then just keep going after that. So yeah, that's my
So next weekend you want to walk?
no, she's coming here.
Guys, so we got 5 minutes left there. So I'm